Hi, my name is Deb from DG Reads, and this is my furry sidekick Kylie, and we're here today to kick off another reading vlog for the Amazing Readathon. Alright, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll of course have the Amazing Readathon linked down below, which is brought to us by Bree from Four Paws in a Book. If you do know what I'm talking about, you may notice Kylie's got a new bow tie on, and that means we've got a new prompt drop. So I do have some updates on my reading for you, so I'm gonna let her go back to sleep because she's very exhausted after spending the day yesterday at my dad's house. So she's gonna go take a nap and I'll catch you up on my reading. Okay, so I've already told you we've got a new prompt drop, but before I get to that, I did start a couple things this morning before we got that drop. So I'm about almost halfway through Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This is book 4 in the Wayfarer series, and I've really been enjoying this series a lot. It is kind of cozy sci-fi. It follows a bunch of different alien species, and each of them have very different societal structures and physical anatomy and ways of thinking about gender and identity, and you wind up seeing so much diversity and inclusivity and just a lot going on with that. In this particular book, we've started kind of at a supply depot, a ship that has just landed there with a type of people on it that the station hasn't ever accommodated before, and then things go awry. They wind up, instead of it being just a quick stop for supplies and fuel, it winds up being an extended event. So I'm really enjoying this. Lots of great discussions in here, and these books are just so much fun to read and easy and cozy and relaxing. So I'm hopeful I can finish this up very quickly when I get back to sightseeing. And then I also picked up Archive of the Forgotten, and this is by AJ Hackwith, and this is one of Bree's host favorite picks, and it's a series that I started quite a while back. So I read book 1, and I'm really hopeful getting into this one that kind of the details of book 1 will come back as I get going on it. But this is set in a hell where unfinished books go to die. So stories that never got finished, never got put to paper, go here to die. And in the first book, one of the characters from one of those books in this Hell's Library escapes and things ensue from there. I'm not exactly sure what the story arc of this particular book is going to be, but I'm interested to find out. I made it a whole 2% into this before the next prompt dropped, but this one will get me the prompt for a book published in your birth month because I was born in October. This one was published in October. So that's one of the harder prompts. So I was excited to find out that one of Bree's picks actually worked for that. This also will work for fantasy, and it will work for a queer author. So lots of bonus points on this one as well. I should also go back and mention, which I failed to do before, I'm going to be reading this one for a non-human main character because we're following a bunch of alien species. All that together, the other thing I failed to mention is that the goal for this week is points. I am not limiting myself with any extra challenges. I'm not limiting myself to just fantasy. Obviously, one of the books I have in progress is a sci-fi. I am really trying to finish off all of the books that will get the most bonus points for sightseeing. So I'm down to only 2 500-point prompts. One is to read the 4th in a series, and I do actually have a kind of unofficial buddy read for the Pretty Little Liars series, and we're on book 4. That will be happening at the end of the month because Becca from Becca in the Books has been reading, and a bunch of people have kind of joined in for that with her Patreon. So that one's getting taken care of. And then the other one for 500 points that I haven't finished yet is a book published before 2001, and I've already started and been working on Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, and this one is for my classics buddy read that I help host on Bookstagram. So this one was published, this particular edition was reprinted and made in 1959. So definitely counts. This one's kind of a slow but steady read throughout the month for me. I'm about a quarter of the way through, I think, currently. So I'm also working on this. With that, I will have swept all of the 500 point prompts. So this vlog, I'm particularly trying to focus in on kind of the 400 and 300 point prompts. Will I get to all of them? Probably not. Who knows what chaos will come throughout the week, but that is the goal currently. And then we did get the new prompt that just dropped within the last hour or so. So we're headed to the Republic of Madagascar, and the prompt for this one is to read a book that involves in some way, shape, or form religion or a god. So someone in the fantasy chat suggested the Crowns of Nixia series by Carissa Broadbent, and I have read book 1, but I need to get to book 2. It's been sitting on my Audible shelf unread for quite a while. So that's what I'm going to do. It's a more than 650 page book, so it will be one that will take me a little bit to get through, but it'll also get Team Fantasy good amount of points, and definitely genre points as well. That's my goal. The first book read really quickly, so even though it is a nearly 20-hour audiobook, I'm pretty sure I will be able to get through it quickly. And since I do have it on audio and on Kindle Unlimited, I can read it in the car, I can read it at home, I can multitask, all that good stuff. That's where I'm going to be starting in terms of official prompts. And then, like I said, I'm going to try to get in as many sightseeing books as I can this week to get as many points as I can for Team Fantasy. So I'm happy to be taking you along for the ride, and fingers crossed it's a successful week full of high ratings. It is Tuesday morning now, and I didn't do an update for you yesterday because pretty much the entire day until very late was spent finishing up The Ashes in the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent, and I did indeed finish it. So that means I have made it to our destination and I can to sightseeing. I had a generally good time with the book. There's not a lot I can say about the plot because it is a sequel and spoil how things went. One, to talk about the plot of this one, I didn't find it quite as can't put downable as the first book, partially maybe because it is a little bit longer, but also some of the elements from the first book that aren't present in the second book I did kind of miss. But in general, still had a good time with it. I gave it a 3.5 rounded to 4 for Goodreads, so that was good. And then I also did late last night just kind of laying in bed listening to my book. I say late last night. Honestly, I fell asleep super early, so it wasn't that late. But I did finish The Galaxy and the Ground Within, and this was a fantastic book. It had so many good discussions just about the way people are different, the way we make assumptions. Like there was a whole scene with dancing and everyone assumes that music is kind of a universal language, but one of the types of aliens, they don't process music the same way. They don't dance, they don't do things the same way we do. And so there was a lot of discussion about that and trying to experience each other's culture. And this was just a really great book. There were a few places maybe where it got a little bit slow, but I loved it. It was a 4.5 rounded to 5 for me. So with that, I am going to be focusing in on sightseeing, getting lots of points until we get a new prompt drop, which could happen today, maybe tomorrow, I'm not sure. We will have to see what chaos Bree has in store for us with the readathon. But I am going to switch priorities a little bit. I've started Storm Warning by David Bell, and this is a gifted e-arc from Berkeley Publishing. And it is a thriller, so it doesn't fit any of the bonus prompts, but it is an arc that comes out on June 25th, so before this will be live, and I do need to read it and review it before publication day. So this is going to be my priority. We're following Jake, who is living on one of the barrier islands off of Florida, and he is trying to get off the island as a big hurricane, which happens to be named after my dog. Okay, maybe not, but Hurricane Kylie is barreling down on them, and it doesn't go as planned. He doesn't make it off the island. His family winds up showing up on the island, and one of his really good friends is found murdered in the building. So he's going to have to survive the storm and the expectation that the murderer is probably still in the building. I'm currently about 15% of the way in, and it's just been a lot of setup so far, but I feel like this is one that could have a lot of really good tension. And I do have the audio from PRH Audio, so I will be listening to this one primarily at work today, I think is the plan currently. And hopefully I can finish this one off and then get back to some of the other in progress sightseeing books that I have as well. I will give you guys an update later, let you know if we got any prompts today or anything, and we will go from there. It is now Wednesday evening, and I'm here to give you some updates. No news on a new prompt yet, so I have just been sightseeing. I finished up Storm Warning by David Bell yesterday. This is a book that I had to read because it's an arc and I needed to get it done in time for publication next week. So I wasn't able to make this work for any of the high point prompts that I'm mainly prioritizing this week, but it did work for Isolated Setting, which was one of the 200-point prompts. I wound up enjoying this book. It wasn't a love. It wasn't an obsession. I found it a little bit on the slow side, and I'm not entirely sure if maybe it felt slower because I was listening to it through the PRH Audio app, and you are limited on how fast you can speed up an audiobook, and I think maybe this is a book that reads a little slower and therefore probably one I would have liked to increase the speed just a little bit more, but I also think it didn't quite deliver the tension I was looking for from it. Between the storm, between the fact that there's a killer on this island, they're isolated, they are trapped by the weather, the buildings falling down around them. There's a lot of elements that I think could have delivered a little bit more tension to the story that just didn't quite land for me. But I still had a good time with it. It was a 3.5 read. And then I did finish up Brideshead Revisited, and I didn't love this one. It does have a lot of really dark tones to it. It was described as melancholy by one of my friends in the buddy read group that we're doing for this, and I think that's the perfect description. Not to be repetitive, but I did find this one a little bit slow, and it is classic, so I kind of went in kind of expecting that, but at the same time it had very much a historical fiction type of feel to it. Again, that makes sense given the time period, but it's just not exactly what I was in the mood for. So didn't 100% love it, but did finish it, and this definitely fulfills the 500-point prompt to read a book that was published before 2001. And then since last we spoke, I also started a novel love story, which is by Ashley Poston, and this one also comes out next Tuesday, so I need to get it read this week. In this one, we're following a main character who is an avid reader of romance and books in general, and she has one particular series that she absolutely loves. She has quotes memorized, she knows these characters inside and out, rereads and all the like, and when she's driving one day, her car breaks down, and somehow she winds up in this town, this fictional town that doesn't exist on the maps, and it's full of these characters that she knows and loves. And I'm currently only like 10-15% of the way in it, but just like with all of this author's books, really, it's very charming so far. I'm really enjoying it. I don't read a ton of romance, but I have yet to be let down by one of her books, so I'm really hopeful for this one. So I'm going to leave that here. I do have a bit of a cough going on, so I apologize if my voice is going in and out a little bit. I thought it was a good idea for some reason last week to inhale my coffee instead of drinking my coffee, and my lungs have been very unhappy with me ever since. So I'm ready to just kind of bundle up on the couch, get some reading done, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be picking up this evening, but we'll figure it out from here. We've got some more time for sightseeing until a new prompt drops, and I'll be back with you once I have a little bit more of an update. Get the camera. Kylie, I'm trying to film the camera instead of blocking my face. Well, Kylie has a new bow tie, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to give you a quick update. We are headed for Seoul. She is wiggly. Apparently she's hiding. She's being bashful today. You don't want to say hi to the people? Kylie's being extra wiggly, so we're going to put her down to enjoy life on the ground. Now she's just sitting behind the camera staring at me. The new prompt is to read a book with a source of light on the cover, and for this I'm going to pick up one of the books I had really been hoping to get to this month, so I'm excited about that. And that is Seasonal Fears by Sean McGuire. And this is book 2 in the Alchemical Journeys series. following middle game. I don't really know what the plot of this one's going to be following the first book, so I will be finding out soon when I start it on my way to work. I do have the audiobook and an ebook, and I just was kindly gifted a copy of the third book in the series by Tor, so I definitely wanted to get to this one during the month of June if I possibly could. So I'm very excited to get this going. It has a flame on the cover, which is definitely a source of light, so perfect for this particular prompt. The other update that I forgot when I was recording last night is that I have been making progress on the Archive of the Forgotten. It did take me a little bit to get into this since I did read the first book quite a while back. It took a bit for me to kind of remember what was going on from that, but I've really been enjoying this one. I can't say too much about the plot, again, because this is a sequel, but we're dealing with magical ink. We're dealing with some repeat characters, some different things, and the whole book, the whole series is about books and stories and libraries and all of that. Definitely buzzwords for me. I have about 20% or so left of this, so it'll be a quick, easy finish after I get my prompt book done for Soul. And then since both of these are books that I want to be able to focus a little bit more in on, there's a lot going on with this one, and I definitely need to focus in more on Seasonal Fears since I need to refresh myself on that one as well, on what happened in the last book. I'll probably be able to make a little bit of progress on a novel love story today at work. My schedule today is largely back-to-back meetings, some of which require me to talk, which, given that I have to keep pausing the recording for coughing fits, could be an interesting day. So we'll see how the day goes. I'll get you an update later, and I'm excited about everything that I'm planning to read today, so at least that's a good thing. Happy Friday. Really didn't want to be productive this morning, so really quick update before I head to work. I am now halfway into Seasonal Fears, and I'm having a pretty good time with this one. I really like Sean McGuire's writing. I think that part of it is definitely working for me. I like the little bits of humor. I like the characters. I am finding it on the slow side though. I think we're getting a lot of info dump, and that's because the main characters don't know what's going on, and the reader obviously doesn't know what's going on, so the author is giving them a lot of information. But it does get repeated quite a bit, and it makes sense in the sense that it's a hard concept for the characters to grasp, but I feel like for the reader it's a little bit much sometimes. So the book as a whole is feeling a little bit slow, but still having a good time. I'm looking forward to finishing it. Yesterday was literally back-to-back meetings from 11 to 5:30 without any breaks, so I didn't get much reading done, and I pretty much came home exhausted. So I'm hopeful today will be a little more quiet, and I will get to do some audiobook at work, come home, and be ready to read. I can say a little bit about the book in terms of the plot, because it really does feel like a book in and of itself, separate almost from Middle Game. We're now, just where I'm at, we're starting to get more overlap. The concept in this one is that our two main characters, Mel and Harry, are candidates to be winter and summer. There always is a human to kind of embody winter and summer, and Mel has had a heart condition her whole life and has never expected to live as long as she has. But now that it is winter, and now that she's this candidate, she's officially died. Her human body has died, even though she is up and walking around, and she must take the crown to keep going. Otherwise, if somebody else takes it, they will become winter and she will be permanently gone. She and Harry have been childhood sweethearts, eternal sweethearts, and they have this time to potentially have a life together, with complications along the way, of course. There are other people who are out to get them so that they can't take these crowns. But the duplication of telling us these things again it makes sense in the story. The characters are struggling. They've been living a very human life up till this point. They haven't been clued into who they are or what potentially they could be. And it makes a lot of sense that they're confused. I'm hopeful as we get further into the book, the characters are starting to understand what's going on. I'm hopeful that that'll kind of slow down some of the info dump. And we are now seeing some of the characters from book one. So that's exciting as a little bit of a friendly face, I guess I could say. I need to get going. I need to make my coffee and my breakfast and head out the door. So hopefully I will have updates about finishing this book and making it to Seoul very quickly. It is Friday evening and I just made it home a little bit ago. It was a long week, but it's over. I had a couple errands to run on the way home, picked up some book mail from UPS, got some mail for Kylie, we got some BarkBox toys, so she's having fun with that. And I picked up some garlic flatbread and threw some sauce and cheese and pepperoni on it, so that's baking in the oven. So with those life updates out of the way, I also have some reading updates for you. I had a pretty successful reading day. So first off, I finished a novel love story and I really enjoyed this one. I really liked the way the author used this fictional town to kind of show different things about fiction. I really thought it interesting the way she incorporated ideas that just never become anything, failed drafts and those types of things. The way there's some things in the town that aren't fully drawn out because why do you care in a book what the menu says or things like that. So it was really interesting the way it just played on different ideas of fiction and I really liked it. I really liked the way that the focus was more on the main character and the way she needed to kind of come to terms with things and grow on her own and make good decisions for herself before putting a romance first. And I really liked the way the story wrapped up and all of that. So I am putting this down as 5-star prediction because this is an author I've definitely given 5 stars to before. I think this one, I wasn't super invested in the romance aspect and there were a few places where I felt like maybe it got a little bit longer than it needed to be. There were a few things that were a little bit kind of repetitive as the characters figuring out what's going on, but it was a high 4.5 and I'm definitely rounding it to 5 stars, so that was a good pick for this one. That one is one of the 200-point prompts, so not one of the best, but again, this was an arc I really had to get to this week anyway, so even though I'm trying to target the high points, that works. At least it got me some points. And then on my way home from work, I also finished Seasonal Fears. And overall, I really liked the book. I really just love this author's writing. I like the world that the author is creating here. Like I said earlier, there was some info dumping, so that's not my favorite style of world building, but I think given the nature of the story, I think it would have been hard to integrate it more into the story. I think that it could have been a little bit shorter, but overall, really liked it. Really looking forward to reading book 3. So that got me to Seoul. So I will be able to submit that after I finish filming, and a novel love story. And then, since I finished the book before I made it all the way home, I did pick up a third book and finished it also. And that was The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace. And this is a poetry collection. And the audiobook's only an hour. It's narrated by the author. So I knew it would be a quick read. And it's one that I saw Bree had given 5 stars. So it was something I was considering for the prompt of what Bree gave 5 stars. But the cover is purely a black cover with white text on it. And we do have a good points prompt that is purely text on the cover. So I'm using this one for that. And I overall really enjoyed it. The book starts off with quite a few references to a certain wizard franchise that I try to avoid personally. So I was a little nervous at the beginning, but that does come up again in the book, but it's not constant throughout. I thought this was a really good collection. It hits on a lot of really hard and heavy subjects. So it's talking about suicide, it's talking about abuse, it's talking about body image, fat phobia, and death of family members, and there's just a lot of heavy hitting subjects. It also talks about the love of reading and books and fiction and how many lives somebody can live by reading, and a lot of those things really hit close to home as well. I think this is going to be another like 4.5 for me, and a collection I really enjoy. And I do know this is an author who has quite a few collections out there, so I would definitely pick up more from them in the future. So with that, I am going to go back to hopefully finishing up the Archive of the Forgotten. I oversold how close I was to the end. I think I'm closer to 70% than 80%, but still I should be able to finish it up fairly quickly and then figure out something else to read for the evening. At this point, I don't know when we expect a new prompt. We haven't had any detours or anything like that going on for the Seoul leg of the trip, so I'm guessing we've got a little more time before we need to make another change, but who knows? It could happen at any time, but I'm glad I made it to Seoul, so I'm ready. And hopefully we'll get a couple more reads in, would be my goal. I do have some plans this weekend. I am planning to see my best friend on Sunday at least, and I have a watch along on Sunday evening, so I definitely won't get as much reading in as maybe I otherwise might have, but I still have a lot that I would like to get to. So I will give you an update once I've made some more progress. It is Saturday night, and I've been remiss when it comes to giving updates today, so giving you a little catch up before I settle in for the evening. I did finish up the Archive of the Forgotten, and I like this one. It's not a book that necessarily fully pulls me in 100%. It's one that I really appreciate for all that it's doing with playing with language and writing and books and muses and authors and just the concept of stories, and all of that I really enjoy. It's one that doesn't necessarily make me have a hard time putting it down, but it's definitely a series that I'm excited to go ahead and finish. So this being book 2 in the series, I'm hopeful that I can get to book 3 during the final book support group next month, because that'll be perfect timing to finish up a series and not let myself forget a lot of what happened in this book like I did between books 1 and 2. Overall, this wound up being either a 3.5 or a 4 for me. I'm kind of waffling back and forth a little bit. It'll get rounded to 4 regardless on Goodreads for this one. And this is going in for a book that was published during my birth month, which is October. I have now also read Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. And in this one, we are following a man when he was a young boy. He and his best friend were camping in the backyard, and somebody slid a hole in the tent and his friend disappeared, never to be found again. That was obviously very traumatizing on his life. Now he's back in his old family home. He's dealing with some issues with his marriage, and he's having to kind of confront these memories from the past for the first time, but there's something strange going on. Baseballs keep showing up in the yard that remind him of the way his missing best friend used to kind of signal that it was time to meet up. I went into this with fairly low expectations because I had seen a lot of really trusted reviewers kind of give this 3, maybe 4 stars. So I wound up, I think, enjoying it more than if I had gone in with really high expectations. I do think it was slow to get going. This one's marketed as more of a thriller than a horror. I think that's true. It's definitely slow burn for a thriller though, and there is a lot of setup. It does take a while. There's a lot of characters to get to know. There were a few moments that I wanted to be creepier than they really were. There are moments where we're dealing with some dark woods. We're dealing with different things that could have maybe had more of an impact or more of a fear factor to it than they really did. But I still had a good time with it. It was really easy to listen and or read. I had the audio arc for this one thanks to Libro FM and Penguin Random House, and I also picked up the ebook from the library, and the combination, I did enjoy being able to read certain parts of it, listen to certain parts of it, and I think that was good. It does go back and forth in time, and purely listening to audio, I did miss a few of the time changes, so we're getting a slightly different perspective, and it took me a minute to catch up to where we were and what was going on, but I did think it had some good twists. I think it had some things that I didn't entirely anticipate. So from that perspective, I did like that part. This book is going to go in for the prompt for a book with a vehicle on the cover, because there is a car on the cover of this one. And then I did have time to get started on something new. So I picked up The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, and this one is a young adult fantasy, and we're following Blue, and she has a clairvoyant mother. She herself hasn't seen the spirits that her mother has seen until all of a sudden this year a boy named Gansey appears to her, and it's said that there's only two reasons that this would happen. Either he's her true love or she kills him. She finds out he's a student at a local private school, which is a population she generally avoids, but she winds up getting sucked into his universe through all of this, and I'm not too far into it, so I don't know a ton yet, but I am liking it so far. I know there's a lot of people who really love this, so I'm hoping to become one of them myself. And I've got this copy, I've got the audiobook too, so I've been kind of going back and forth with those. Kylie's currently jumping at me because I have her rainbow banana that came from BarkBox as part of their Pride collection. So yeah, she wants to play right now. So I'm gonna go have a cupcake because my best friend's birthday is next week, so I had to pick up some goodies, and to be a good friend, I'm willing to taste test and just make sure everything's good. So I'm gonna have a cupcake, Kylie's gonna have some banana fetch, and we are gonna probably get a little bit more reading in. No updates today on a new prompt. I'm kind of hoping maybe we'll get one in the morning. We'll see how that goes. It'd be nice to figure out what my next book is before the week really kicks off. So I'll give you an update when I get a chance. And I will be wrapping up this vlog, I think, tomorrow, because then we have exactly 1 week left in the readathon. It's been all of 5 minutes since last I talked to you, because I sat down to transfer that last clip to my computer and realized that a new prompt just dropped. So we are on the way to Bangkok, which is exciting because I actually went to Bangkok this year and had a fabulous time, so I'm happy to be playing another virtual visit. So Kylie got a new bow tie, and I have a new prompt to tell you. So our prompt for Bangkok is to read a book with at least 5 colors on the cover, and Brie did specify that it can be different shades of a similar color, but it needs to be 5 that you can identify. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and use the Raven Boys for this one. I think I can come up with 5 because we've got some teal, we've got some black and dark blue, we've got red, we've got gray accents on the cover, plus the white background. We've got a really light teal down here for the characters, and of course different shades of red on the title as well. So I think I can make this work. That means I already have this underway, so I should be able to finish it up quickly, even though I'm potentially having a busier day tomorrow. Then I can continue on with some sightseeing. So this one's 400 pages, even though it reads pretty quickly, so it'll get me some decent points in terms of the page count, and it is the appropriate genre, so I get that bonus as well. So I do think this is a good one. I was going to use this for a book with over 100,000 ratings on Goodreads, but I think it's best to go ahead and use this for the prompt, and then I've definitely got more sightseeing books that I want to get to going into the final week of the readathon. Now, really, I think I shouldn't have any more updates for you tonight, and I should really get back to reading this. So at least the prompt drop is giving me some extra motivation to get some more pages in before I go to bed tonight. So it's now Monday morning and I'm about to get going to head to work, but obviously I did not get a chance to update you last night or wrap up the vlog yesterday, so I'm gonna do that now. I had a great day yesterday, but a busy one. I did a bunch of filming in the morning and then went out with a friend and we had a nice walk out in the sun along the coast and a nice lunch out, a little shopping. And then I came home, watched some watch along with some folks, and I was barely keeping my eyes open even just to watch TV. So pretty much went straight to bed last night. And about all I accomplished reading-wise is I did finish The Raven Boys. I had to actually go back and re-listen to the ending this morning because I was just kind of drifting out as I was finishing it up last night. But I did make it to Bangkok, so we're ending this on a success. I had a really good time with this. I'm not as obsessed as I think some people are with it. I think it's a 4-star for me. Partially, I do think that I was reading this kind of in the midst of a lot going on and having to pick it up, put it back down, and that probably impacted things a lot. There were some really great twists to the story that I didn't anticipate, and I loved that about it, and the ending has me intrigued to see where this series is going to go. So I definitely will be picking up the rest of the series, and I'm really glad that I got to read this. But that does mean that I am in Bangkok and I will be starting in on some more sightseeing next. But that will be for the next vlog, so I will wrap this up here. Let me know in the comments, have you read any of the books I read this week? Have you been participating in the readathon? How's it been going? And if you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, go ahead and leave me a bird emoji for The Raven Boys. Thank you so much for being here. If you could hit that like button below, I'd surely appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button if you're interested in more of my content. But for now, I will catch you in the next video, which I'll be starting as soon as I stop this one.